Hello YouTube, this is Justin and I'm going to be talking about the reasons why one would want to use Google Docs. First a comment and then I'll go into the reasons which are on the screen and which I'll be talking about shortly. So these are all, of course you know I make video series about how to use different aspects of Google using NVDA, and a lot of the blind people that I've talked to, and blind and low vision people, don't really like Google Docs much, and I think there's a lot of question on why you'd want to use it. So before I go into making more videos in the series, I'll just take a look at some of the reasons why I might use Google Docs.
Collaboration out of list blank.
So the first one is collaboration. So the best reason that I can come up with is that it enables you to collaborate with colleagues. If I have a job where periodically I work on presentations with people from around the country, I also will work on articles with other people, and it's just really nice when you don't have to exchange back and forth several drafts of a given piece of writing or a given slideshow over email. Eventually, what I find in the old way that we would do things is you'd end up with 5 or 6 or 7 copies of the same document, and you could have just spent your time editing one version of that document and using a lot less space, which in part it's nice to have the collaboration. It's also nice kind of psychologically maybe to feel like you're just wasting a little bit less space in your inbox making copies after copies of the same document.
List bullets, collaborate bullets, lots of people use it.
In part, kind of tying into that collaboration reason is that lots of people use it, and I'm not saying necessarily that lots of other people do it, so therefore you should too, or you know, if your friends jump off a bridge, you should do the same. It's just kind of going back again to that idea of collaboration. I've found more or less in this field, if I get on a workshop with people from a different organization from where I work, 70% or 80% likelihood that we're going to be using Google Docs as opposed to Microsoft Office to work on the document. And by the way, I have used Microsoft Office. They have put together a sort of a tool that allows you to collaborate on Word and PowerPoint documents, and it's not really as good as this, and I'll get into that in a bit. So, you know, it's just if you're going to work with colleagues from other organizations or a friend on a document, you're more likely to be able to be a helpful contributor if you know how to use Google Docs.
Bullets accessible on desktop and mobile.
So it's also accessible on desktop and mobile. And again, I mean, this is kind of one of those things. I've tried using Word and Excel on my iPhone, but I've not really found it quite as great as the desktop experience. Definitely, regardless of whatever you're doing, mobile does kind of give you a more pared down version of what the desktop gives you. But nevertheless, I find that Google does a pretty good job of making the experience of editing a Google document or a Google Sheet, and to some extent a Google Slides, very easy, whether you're working on your iPhone or whether you're working on a Windows desktop. And results are somewhat more variable on Mac OS with Google Docs, although they work very well with Google Sheets. And I've never personally used Android, so I'd be interested to hear from you all maybe what your experience has been on that.
Bullets easy menu structure.
It also has an easy menu structure, and this is one of those things that I really kind of wish was different about Office Online, is that when I did a good chunk of researching keyboard commands in Office, and the most that I could come up with specifically about PowerPoint and Microsoft Word is that you can use Control F6 to move around the structure, to get up to the ribbon, to get to the different aspects of the document, and apart from that, then you press Enter to open things and Tab to get around things. Even, for example, Control left arrow, Control right arrow, which on the desktop version allows you to move between tab groups, is not enabled. And basically, if all of those other little macro key commands that allow you to just really quickly italicize text or make bullet lists or whatever the case may be are just totally you can just forget about them. They're not even there. Whereas in Google Docs, the menu structure is not a ribbon. It's the classic menu bar with menus, and it follows a very similar format, which, okay, if you're young, I guess you won't really remember the way things were in Microsoft Office before 2007 or 2008, but it used to be a menu structure. And all of these menus, pretty much every item within the menus has a key command attached to it, and it's really easy to figure out because it announces the key command after you hear the item. So it's very quick to learn that. The other thing is that if you go to the help menu, you have a search feature that allows you to pull up any function in the program and to find out the key command for that function. And if you don't want to bother looking for it or pressing the key command, you can just press enter on it, having found it through the help menu, and it will run the function for you. So it's really nice in that sense, and you can very quickly get to where you're putting together documents using key commands.
Bullet keyboard commands. Out of list blank.
Which is pretty much tying into my last point, which is keyboard commands. And in addition, I might add to the keyboard commands that are built into the menu structure, you also have a collection of commands that are related to accessibility, and where you can make it voice things, such as in a Google Doc, you can make it voice the formatting. Same thing in a Google Sheet, you can make it voice formatting, and within Google Sheets, you can also make it voice other things too, like you can make it voice a row when you move by column, or you can make it voice a row when you move by you can make it voice a row when you might move by column, or voice a column when you move by row. So there's a lot of extra kind of adaptive functionality. That's all in the accessibility menu, which you'll find that in Google Docs, and if you're using other programs in the Google Suite, you'll also find the accessibility menu, which is next to help. So those are just a few reasons why, speaking specifically of Google Docs and a little bit more about Google Suite in general, why you would choose Google Docs. There certainly are also some, of course, you probably know about some of the downsides of Google Docs, and I would get into that in some other videos when we'll talk a little bit more about how to use Google Docs with NVDA. So this has been why you would want to use Google Docs in the first place with a screen reader, and specifically with NVDA. Hopefully this video has been helpful. My name is Justin. If you thought it was, just like, comment, or subscribe and let me know what else I should do as far as making videos. Thanks.
Safari. Screen click.